Not like the Mets.
Good evening. Oops. Good eve. Good. Okay. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Uncommon Sense. Oops, excuse me. With Jose Negro. Now, for the benefit of those of you who are not familiar with the channel or watching this channel for the first time, the reason why it is called Uncommon Sense, because here on this platform, we discuss everyday issues where we try to find logical solutions, but not everyone uses logic. So for that reason, it is called Uncommon Sense. I want to let everybody know that I'm currently live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch. Okay. First of before I start, I just want to wish everyone a belated and blessed 4th of July holiday. However you wish to observe it, whether it be the birth of this country, or is it time for barbecues, or a time for get together, or a time that's remembering the rights and privileges and responsibilities of being a U.S. citizen, and also reflecting on some of the misdeeds that this country has performed. So, first of all, I want to give a huge shout out to all those who have already subscribed to the channel, whether it be from the beginning or just recently. I really appreciate all the love and support that all of you have given me. I also want to give a huge shout out to all those who follow me on social media. And I also want to give a huge shout out to all those who allow me to enter into your devices. So what I'm going to ask you to do is the following. If you have not done so, I'm going to ask you to please subscribe, like, and hit the bell notification to all. So therefore, whenever I do produce content, you will have the opportunity to catch it live or catch it on the playback. Now, before we get into tonight's topic, which is parenting in today's age, I have a few things that I'm going to discuss with you, and it's going to be another version of In My Words. Now, for those of you who have, now for those of you who have recently looked into my community tab, um, yesterday was not only Amanda's birthday, but it was my brother Albert's birthday. Okay. Uh, in fact, if he was, if, he unfortunately he passed away 8 years ago at the age of 56. Um, he was very young, and he was a man of valor. He was a man of God. He was a man that gone through many trials and tribulations in his life. He came to the saving knowledge of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, and he was very active in Victory Outreach. In fact, he was a licensed chaplain. So, and of course, he was very active in ministry with outreach. So I just want to give a huge shout out to my brother Albert, who is in heaven as we speak. Um, Albert, just want to say that you are truly missed by the siblings that left here, but you are in a better place, and with God's grace, we will gather again. Okay, so it's just a matter of time, and and he's just one of many of our angels, and then close the following. Both my parents, three of my siblings, George, Albert, and Jesus, known as Gigi, my older sister, Doris, and my grandnephew, Christopher. Okay, so in any case, let's deal with the first thing. It seems like Bill de Blasio and Shane McClain are headed for separation. Okay, so I recently came across this article in CNN Politics website. Unfortunately, I'm using my tablet, so therefore, I really don't know how to share. That's something I'm going to have to work on because right now I'm streaming through my tablet. But let me just read to you the article. Okay. Former New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio and Shirley McClain, who for a time became one of the most influential biracial political power couples in America, announced on Wednesday, that's last week, oh, actually today, that they are separated. In an interview with the New York Times, de Blasio and McClain said they did not plan to divorce and they will continue living together for now in their Brooklyn townhouse. They will, however, begin to date other people. Even at this moment of change, this is a love story, said de Blasio in a tweet linking to the Times interview. He told CNN that the couple had, I'm always going to say today. Now, let me just give you my take. First of all, these two are over the age of 21. They have they have full control of their mental faculties. So they have every right to do whatever they wish. Um, it's kind of weird for me to have a couple separating but living in the same dwelling, and yet they're going to date other people. Um, that can be okay. That can, in my opinion, that can bring mixed signals to their children. Now, my understanding that their children are adults, So I'm sure they had a discussion with their children regarding this current state of their marital status. Now, when it comes to dating, it can be very awkward for many reasons. Now, I understand that people have different morals and different beliefs and what have you, so I'm not going to be overly critical about that. However, there are many people that have an issue dating someone who is separated because, technically speaking, these two are still married. Okay, so that's going to make dating a very odd dynamic to whomever they wish to date. Again, let me just make it perfectly clear. Um, both these individuals are free to do whatever they wish. They are free to make their own decisions. They are also free. Excuse me. They're also free that if they wish to see other people, that's fine on them. Um, my thing is they're going. I think what they need to do is, and it seems like at least as far as I'm concerned, um, they need to make some sort of a decision um, regarding what they're going to do as far as their marital status. I don't know if this is just something for them to do in a attempt of a reconciliation. That I don't know. Okay. So I'm just going to leave it as is. Okay. And I'm sure all of you have personal opinions. Okay. And of course, all of you are free to express your opinions as you see fit. Okay. As I stated before, I am not going to pass judgment. I don't know about them. I don't, and you know, people can know, as I stated before, they're over the age of 21, so therefore they can do whatever they wish. Now, the next thing I'm going to be talking about is the recent decisions made on the Supreme Court. Okay. Okay, no problem. I'm just basically just discussing some things um, until you arrive, Denise. Okay. Now, recently there's been some decisions in the Supreme Court. Um, One has to deal with affirmative action, whether or not that's going to be demolished or at least um, it's going to transform into something else. Another decision that was made in regards to the separation of church and state. Um, there was an issue where I believe okay, there was an employee for one of the federal agencies that did not want to work on Sunday due to the fact that the person is a Christian and the fact of the matter is this person wished to observe the Sabbath. Okay. For those of you who are not Christian oriented, that's a day of rest where we focus on things tends towards God. Okay. So basically, the Supreme Court ruled that he did not have to work on the Sabbath. Now, what I will be doing is sometime next week, I will be having a stream in regards to some of these decisions that the Supreme Court has made um, in regards to these matters, and also another issue with the Supreme Court is when it comes to student loan debt relief. Um, President Biden made this one of his campaign promises in regards to this topic. Unfortunately, the Supreme Court has kind of put like a monkey wrench in the whole thing due to the fact that we didn't have the authority of Congress in order to act. So I'm going to be discussing this sometime next week. Um, I will make a decision on that when I do my next calling show, which will be on Friday night. Okay. Now the other thing that I will be talking about, when it comes to my schedule, it's going to be starting next week. It's going to be a little bit more fluid, meaning there might be changes depending on the situation because certain situations that are beyond my control. So I'm going to be discussing that um, on Friday night as well. Also, as some of you might have seen, I did a rebroadcast on Monday night regarding my interview with my cyber daughter, Denise Gonzalez. So I'm going to be doing this more often, where I'm going to take some of the streams that I did do, and it's going to be a rebroadcast. So those who, for whatever reason, did not have the opportunity to view it, do have an opportunity to do so. So I'm going to be doing a rebroadcast on July the 19th, I think, 9 o'clock or 9:30. And that's going to be the stream regarding the second anniversary of my mother's passing. My mother passed away um, 3 years ago, July the 19th. So what I'm going to do is a remembrance. I'm going to do a rebroadcast. I'm not going to lie. This was like the most emotional, the most painful, because the memory is still fresh in my mind. And even it's been 3 years, but I can rest in the knowledge that my mother is no longer suffering her illness, and that she's in, she's in peace and heaven. With my father, my three brothers, my sister, and my grandnephew. Okay. So, excuse me, I get a little, unfortunately, every now and then, I get thirsty. Okay. Now tonight's panel, what I'm going to ask is the following. I'm going to ask that only uh, people who have raised children, whether it be biological children, whether it be foster children, whether it be adopted children, maybe you're a grandparent and you raise your grandchildren, maybe you are an uncle or an aunt, or even an older sibling raise a younger sibling. I'm going to ask that only these people hit the link um, to share their experiences um, as becoming a parent, because technically speaking, the only young parent-like figure that's going to be on the panel, it's going to be me. But however, everybody else will have the opportunity to enter your questions in the chat. Um, if you wish to raise any questions regarding the guest panelists. Okay. So, that being said, excuse me. We're going to get into the main topic. Okay. So as you can see by by the thumbnail, the topic for tonight is parenting in today's age. Now, the reason why I decided to address this topic is because of the fact that today, um, those who are raising children, whether it be excuse me, whether it be your biological children, um, foster children, adopted children, whether it be you're raising nephews and nieces, whether you'll be raising your younger siblings, or if you're a grandparent and you're raising your grandchildren for whatever reason. Basically, those who play a parental role. Okay. Now they have many challenges that they have to go that they go through. First of all, one of the challenges that they have is social media. Okay, because social media today, particularly when it comes to Instagram and TikTok, show many influences. And I think, okay, so just give me a moment. Okay, oops. Now, before I let my guests, let me just state for the record that the views of those who appear on the panel are not necessarily those of the host nor the channel. Any attempt to copy the material without the consent from the host of the channel is prohibited. By appearing on the call, you waive your rights to your image. Some of the views that people may hold might be considered offensive to some viewers. If you do not like the content, you can block the channel. And now I'm going to bring in, oops. Ugh. Okay, just give me a moment because, oops. I. Oops. Okay.
Jose muted himself.
Hello?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. How are you doing today? First of all, belated 4th of July to you.
Oh, same to you. Happy birthday, America. I'm good.
So,
I was just finishing dinner.
okay. Before we get into the topic, how is my adorable cyber grandchild?
Well, he's growing and he's very active. Um, he's spoiled for sure. We've spoiled him a lot. And we're in the process of teaching him how to fall asleep.
Okay, that could be a challenge in itself.
Yeah, it is a challenge. I mean, at first we were trying to do it right and we didn't do certain things right, but then now we tackle it. So today will be the third day in which we're sleep training. So so far so good. We'll see how it goes today.
Okay, okay, fine. Now, as I stated before, I mean, today, parents, and let me state this the following: whether it be biological parents, whether it be adopted parents, whether it be foster parents, whether it be grandparents raising their grandchildren, whether it be uncles raising nieces and nephews, or even elder siblings raising younger siblings, they have many issues that they face in parenting. Would you agree?
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that's a challenge today compare of the past. Not saying that in the past there was no challenges, but yeah, I can definitely see how today a lot of challenging aspects of parenting.
Okay. So, what do you think of some of the challenges? Okay, and I'm gonna make it personal. And I'm gonna, being that you are a parent, what some of the parents challenges that you and MK has faced raising your son?
Well, I would say that right off the bat, you're I don't think society talks enough about how challenging or how more than challenging, like how demanding parenting is. I don't think a lot of people that are parents, like I don't think we talk enough about how it's supposed, like how demanding it is. Like the first, I would say like the first 3 months is it's really like really challenging because you have two adults that are severely sleep deprived, and on top of that, like one of them, like for example, for us, I can only speak from like my side as a woman. I would briefly touch on what I've seen in MK, but of course that doesn't apply to a lot of fathers because a lot of fathers in modern society have opted to not be as involved. I hear a little bit of
Mm,
feedback you said from you.
okay, I apologize. Basically, I'm using my tablet um, to StreamYard because I have so many problems with my laptop
Okay.
and with my phone. It just heats up my phone, so I cannot
Uh,
use it. So I'm
would
using
you
my
mute
tablet.
yourself and we'll take turns? I'll mute myself when you talk and vice versa to see if it goes away.
Okay, no problem. Now, one thing I find that it's a huge problem is the rise of single parents, and and this notion that I don't need a man um, to raise my child, not help me raise my child. And this has been going on since the 60s. And I think what we see is we see men and women today which are not properly equipped to deal with interpersonal relationships. What is your observation on that?
Well, mute yourself, Jose, so I can so, 'cause the feedback is it's very
Yeah,
distracting.
I'm
So
trying.
so my take on a lot of people like to speak on the fact that, oh, like single moms, single moms, single moms, but I would like to touch on the fact that there will not be single moms without single fathers because we can use both arguments in which men say like, oh, women cannot create life by themselves. And even though that is true, men need to plant their seed in order for us to, our reproductive system to start developing that life. Then one thing cannot be right and not the other. So I think the creation of single parenthood relies on both parties. It's not just like women, oh, you picked them. We hear that a lot when women say, oh, like, after I got pregnant, like this happened and so on and so on, and then I turned into a single mom. There's a lot of stuff that people don't like to talk about, and it goes back to my initial point. But the concept of single motherhood is, I think it's perpetuated by many things. One is because women, we're not being as protective of our reproductive system and who we share our sex life with, and we're not being taught protection. Most of cultures today, and it has been like that for a long time, majority of our cultures and our communities see sex as a taboo. Like they think, oh, if I don't talk to kids about sex, they won't be having sex, instead of just talking to them about protection. Because let's keep it real, 95% of people are going to have sex, and they're not going to have sex with their spouse. So I think Ramon is backstage, Jose. So whenever you can, pull him up. So with that being said, there's a high probability that you're going to get pregnant, or that as a man, you're going to get someone impregnated if you don't use any type of protection. So that alone already creates the scenario for single parenthood, because we know that based on data and facts, and I can attest for this because, like I stated before, being sleep deprived is no joke. 67% of steady relationships and marriages end up in separation or divorce in the first year after they become first-time parents. And the reason for that is because the hormonal fluctuations on the woman, the challenges of how America has structured maternal and parental leave, on top of that, the sleep deprivation plays a huge role on it, because then you have a woman that's highly hormonally unstable. And for a lot of people don't understand that, but for men, I want you to think about how your testosterone used to make you super sexually interested when you were young, compared to how sexually interested you are in your 40s, 50s, and 60s, because of the fluctuations of your testosterone. Now imagine that with a hormone controlled mood. That's how drastic it is for a woman, because immediately when you give birth, your body starts changing, so it can, quote unquote, snap back to your pre-pregnancy body. So when you add all of that, and then you add the fact that men are not fully oriented or taught how to handle that, women are not completely oriented on how to handle that. Now the disintegration of families do not create also the quote unquote village that we used to have in the past. I think Latinos still have some form of it, but it's coming apart. So when you add all of those factors, you have a very ripe environment for more single parents raising children alone. And we've seen also a spike on women abandoning their kids, so the father's also raising the kids. So it's not just women. This is something that it's going to become more and more prevalent unless the nuclear family is rescued, and then we start teaching proper sexual education, and then eventually being there to assist our kids into parenthood.
Okay, excuse me. What I may have to leave and get back to my laptop because I'm having trouble with my tablet. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna leave my tab, and I'm gonna hop onto my computer and see if that takes care of that. Good evening, Ramon.
Good evening, Jose. Try to use your phone, because you have that other time that you use your phone, you were able to stream okay. We could hear you just fine. But right now you're having feedback. I can hear myself. But yeah. Do what you have to do.
Okay, I'll be right back.
Okay. Denise, ¿qué es la que hay más?
Todo bien, aquí terminando de cocinar, ya tú sabes cómo es.
Qué bueno. Sí.
Alimentando a la familia.
Los estás poniendo gorditos a los dos ahí.
A los dos. Bueno, uno se me escapa para el gimnasio, pero como el otro no se me puede escapar todavía, pues aquí lo tengo.
No, eso es, cuando aprenda a correr, pues eso lo
Ay,
balancea.
bendito. Ya,
Qué bueno.
está, que cuando tú lo quieres sentar, él se quiere parar.
Claro, eso es energía que tiene.
Sí, sí,
Muy bien.
chacho, ya
Qué
lo
bueno.
veo.
All right. Yeah, Jose, maybe you wanted to say something to make sure that we can hear you. I don't hear
Yeah.
any feedback, which is a good thing. So,
Yeah, me neither.
Okay, first of all, okay, can anyone hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, first of all, let me just welcome Blazing King. Good evening. Thank you very much for stopping by.
Hey, Blasian, what's going on?
Okay. So let me just let everybody know. The topic is parenting in today's age. So we're just dealing with some of the issues that people have in raising their children. And Denise was just sharing some of her experiences, and we were talking about some of the things that make it difficult
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
for children to be raised properly. Now
It
I
depends on
understand.
what you mean with properly, because you have to consider all of the social constraints that are being put on now. But I didn't mean to interrupt. I'll be quiet.
Okay. No, it's okay. It's just that there's a lot of influences out there, and plus, I hate to let's keep it real. We have some of the influences by the radical alphabet community when it comes to certain lifestyles.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I know who you're talking about. Uh, well, I mean, we can get to that. We can get to that in a moment. But when it comes to the whole thing about the parenting, I will admit that's not something that I'm very well versed into being, because I'm not a parent myself. I don't know if that's actually gonna happen, because I mean I see the constraints that parents today have to deal with when it comes to raising their own kids, and it leaves me wondering if it is even for me, because I could only, if I were to be a parent, I could only raise the way I was raised. There were discipline, there were spankings, there were groundings, not being able to go out of the house in a time where we didn't have social media, didn't have electronics like that. So it was a real punishment not to be able to get out of the house. And unfortunately, me being a Gen X, I will admit that there were some members of my generation that did drop the ball, because they were raised kind of the way I was raised, where there was a little bit of spanking, and punishing, corporal punishment, and being grounded and things like that. And I remember that there were members of my generation back home, back on the island, that told me, "No, I mean, my kids, I will never spank them. I will never ground them." The soft parenting thing. So there were members of the Gen X that dropped the ball when it comes to that. They did the soft parenting. They didn't discipline their kids. They let them do whatever the hell they wanted to do. And then when I moved here to the States, I remember even seeing that. I will go to this place, to a place here and there to chill or to get something to eat, and I will see a couple with a young kid, and the kid will be all disrespectful. They will try to sit on the table, and they will asking the kids to be quiet and to eat their food, and then they will go like sticking their tongue at their parents in front of everybody, embarrassing them. And I was like, oh boy. I mean, that kid is lucky that it didn't have my mom as her mom, because my mom would have slapped him.
Ooh, my mom would have had that baby for dinner.
Yeah, I mean, it's just it wouldn't happen. It wouldn't happen. I will be scolded. I will be regañado. Me hubieran dado una regañada. I will be scolded heavily in front of everybody. I will have been the one embarrassed if I were acting like that, all out of place, all out of pocket. But then again, it's a generational thing. And now, because of the government here in the States, then I understand that at least legally there are laws on the books in certain states where, to a degree, you can technically use corporal punishment, so you can do a little spanking here and there, but you are taking a risk because you can uh, open up yourself to being accused of child abuse. I mean that could be, it could be that problem. So that's the thing that I don't know if I could do it. I don't know if I could do it because I will have to be a parent the way it was done with me. That's the only thing the only way that I know. And I think I pretty much turned out okay. I mean, I turned out okay. I believe,
Okay.
and I'm not hating my beloved mother for it. All the contrary to that, even though there were times when she did spank me, and I remember the leather belt. I don't remember actually being hit by it. Apparently, it hurt so much that I don't remember. But I know that I hated that belt. So, so I had to deal with actual discipline. And
Okay.
but
Okay. Excuse me. I don't mean to cut you in. Now, I don't know if this is Mulatto Vanguard or this is a truck. Okay.
no, I'm seeing Vanguard in Mulatto Vanguard. They're not saying anything bad, so I don't know.
No, but I'm just
But
simply saying no,
the
no,
real one.
because no, the only I'm not saying he's doing anything bad. I'm just simply questioning if this is the actual Mulatto Vanguard or
Mhm.
this is a troll because this individual had said nasty things about me on his streams, and actually, what he did was he actually shared one of my some of my content without my permission.
Oh, mm.
So okay, as long as you're able to stick with the topic, you're welcome to to comment in the chat.
Yeah. We don't need any derailments. I mean, we're talking about one thing, and then on the chat they start trying to make it about something else. That's
Okay,
derailment. We don't need that.
okay. So just to let you, the topic is parenting in today's age, and what we're doing is we're dealing with the issues that people have raising children with all the negative influences. I mean, first of all, um, you have social media. Also, you have um, norms that becoming very fluid, and you have certain how can I say negative influences that try to impede how people.
But
Okay,
Um,
welcome.
I would say something, right? Because even though my child is like very young, me and MK discussed like how we were going to parent for years, like in advance. Because we knew like pretty early we wanted to have children. So, and I've also seen like on my nieces and nephews, I have five, and I've seen certain things that relate. I think a lot of there's a lot of horror stories out there that we need to like dissect, because whereas yes, social media is damaging to children, it's derailing society, it's very is an aggravator of many things that we don't want our kids to have access to, but it also points out the fact that it goes to the point that Ramon was trying to make, which is gentle parenting today has gotten significantly worse, and the fact that you have to give your kids access to the internet. Me and MK, we've discussed this, and we're not going to give Grayson any form of electronic unless it's a computer to study or to get information out of it, with parental control, of course, and our supervision, because we don't believe in that you're going to have your child have an Instagram account or a Snapchat or Facebook or a Twitter account and expect your kid not to look into these things. So a lot of this whole thing, we cannot make Mark Zuckerberg or Elon Musk responsible for gatekeeping adults and those platforms from speaking out whatever the hell they want to talk about, we have to hold ourselves responsible as parents. And I think a lot of parents have become significantly lazy when it comes to being involved with their kids, because it's easier to just give your kid an electronic rather than just take them to basketball or the swimming classes or volleyball or martial arts or the park. It's easier to just slap them with an electronic.
True. Now, I have to admit, I'm the senior citizen of the panel, okay? But in my day, when I was a child, okay, of course, we didn't have electronics. The telephone, it hung on the wall. So what we did was we went outside, we played baseball, we played basketball, we played football, we played board games. If we wanted to look up something, we would go to an encyclopedia, which was basically a series of books. So to look up any information. Now, for better or for worse, everything that you want is within the reach of your smartphone. And what kind of worries me, I see kids 9, 10 years old with smartphones, which is like, first of all, I mean, children can get into all sorts of, curious things, and sometimes they can gain access to adult material, if you understand what I mean.
Yeah,
Without going,
the internet the internet is vicious, and you cannot trust a minor with that. I don't know who told parents that that was like a smart thing to do.
um, you know, of course, I'm not a parent, okay, but I think part of the fact when you have many single parent households, so I think it's easier just to hand a smartphone, which is basically a little computer, to a child, so that way the child is occupied and entertained, what have you. The danger is left unsupervised, they could be exposed to a lot of negative influence. Not to mention the fact there are individuals that prey on the innocence of children.
Yeah, and it's not just single parents, right? It's every parent, unfortunately. And there's a lot of, like, for example, like I'll tell you uh
See you
what
next
more
time,
hor-
Nation.
Yeah,
oh,
good
take
night,
care,
Blasian.
Blation. Take care, Blation. It's because, like I said, I see it in my nieces and nephews, and they grew up with both parents, and my sisters were married, and one of them divorced, unfortunately, but the kids were already like grown, but the other one is still raising kids, and they all have electronics since they're like 5 years old, and she's married. So it's not just like single parenthood is, it's kind of like a non-factor when it comes to like electronic devices control. I
Mhm.
think is because life has become more competitive for millennial parents, I would say. And when I mean competitive, it's like we compare ourselves to other people more. So now we want more things. We want more money. We want more status. We want the latest vehicle, the latest phone, the latest things, the latest TV, and whatever, whatever. So we have to unfortunately work more. Then you add the multiple recessions that millennials under 35 years old have experienced before being 35. Like this is, I think, it's our fourth economic recession, plus a global pandemic, plus a terrorist attack, plus the 20-year-old wars that we lived through before
Yeah,
adulthood. So,
because
so our
because of
economy,
9/11. Yeah.
yeah, the economy for millennials is a disaster because we did not inherit. I think Gen X also felt to a degree the grunt of this, depending on what age, like if they're still in their 40s. I don't know if you're in your 40s or not. I think so, right? Because you're still young. But
Yeah, I'm in my
then
40s.
then you still then
Mhm.
you still felt it. I think if you're in your 50s and over, you might have not felt it. But if you're still in your 40s and you're in your 40s or younger, you know the economy I'm talking about. We did not
Mhm.
had the opportunity to enjoy the economy that baby boomers and older Gen Xers had, which they could afford more things. Affordability is not for us. So we have to work more to get less. And if we want to keep up with what we see in social media, which is everybody's wealthy, then we have to work even more. So what happens is that your kids immediately feel the grunt of your absence because you have to work more. So you have daycare, you have extended daycare. Now we're seeing that there's daycare all the way till 9 p.m. in certain areas. It
Mhm.
costs you more money, but you can get your child with strangers from 6 a.m. all the way till 9 p.m.
Mhm.
And but you'll be able to afford more things because you'll be able to work more and then have drinks with your friends and then come back home, just put your kids to sleep. And what do you do with your child, and what does one teacher does with many kids that they have to take care of? Well, electronics, either in the form of TV, which is something that my generation was being raised by, which is why a lot of us live thinking that we're like this reality TV stars. And now you have cell phones or tablets or whatever the hell kids are using nowadays. But it's the same thing, just now there's a bigger access because parents have become less and less involved in their kids' lives. And that is the factor as to why parenting has become what it has become.
Yeah,
Um,
we're already at a time where there are teens that have been raised by the tablet and the smartphones because
Yeah,
the smartphones have already been around for the last 15 years or so. So you are
I
having
believe, yeah.
14,
yeah.
15-year-olds that were raised by the tablets. So there is already a generation that had the tablet and the smartphone as the nanny,
Yeah,
as
Gen
the,
X.
as the
Like one
pacifier.
of my sisters is Gen X. She's a Gen Xer. Uh, and I can tell you that her kids were 100% raised by external forces because she had to work as a teacher. A lot of people in my family are teachers for some odd reason, but
Mhm.
she was a teacher. Her husband worked for a bank, and they both had crazy schedules. And they were always chasing that bag. They
Yeah.
wanted to be Guaynabichos,
That one.
and yeah, they live in Guaynabo City. You know how it is, Ramon.
Okay.
They wanted
No
to
es
be,
Guaynabichos.
yeah,
No es Guaynabichos.
it's true.
Antes
They
era
You know
Guaynabichos.
what?
they
This
always
is
wanted to
Come
go
mierda. Yeah,
to,
yeah, I know.
yeah, to the latest concerts. They wanted to have the best diamond rings. They always wanted to, have the best things in lives. They wanted new cars all the time. They could not, like, their car was never like more than 5 years old.
Okay, they were
So
least. They were least. Got you.
so 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 that lifestyle, like, it cost them a lot, because now when you look at my niece and my nephew, there's a lot of things I won't disclose here, right? But there's a lot of things that they experience because they were not raised. And then you
Mhm.
add another layer that makes society even worse, which is gentle parenting.
Yeah,
Gentle parenting has gotten out of this world.
yeah.
Okay, what you were saying, Ramon, earlier, now millennial parents like myself, we're being guilt tripped to let our kids run us ragged. Like, I can tell you, for like a whole week nonstop, the amount of mom and me blogs that I'm participant on, where I have to constantly validate parents that are in the same position as us. Like, we're exhausted. We are going to sleep train our child because you're supposed to teach your kids from a very young age consideration.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Okay. He's not a newborn. He's already an infant that can learn certain things. He can become more independent, and that will help him. And it will continue to progress as he gets older. And you have no idea the amount of shame that you get for that. Like you're like, oh, like your kid's brain is going to develop all wonky because their cortisol levels are going to rise up because they're going to feel abandoned by you. They're going to know that no one's going to show up when they need you. And then another thing that I've heard a lot is if your kid wants to eat as a toddler, they will make demands, and as a parent, you will have to comply with the demands
Mm,
of what they
Oh my goodness.
yeah,
like.
well,
I was
that's a
not raised like
problem.
that.
No, no,
My
no.
mom taught me with a pancake right off the bat how the menu stuff was going to work in our house. One day she made pancakes for everyone. I got a pancake and I said, I don't want this pancake. And she told me, well, you're going to eat the pancake because if you don't eat the pancake, we don't throw away food. It's going to be your lunch. And if you don't eat it at lunch, it's going to be your dinner. And I challenged my
Mhm.
mom because I was the baby. Okay.
Oh my goodness.
Unit, and I
Oh,
came home.
you're being a little princess now.
Yes, I've decided to challenge her. I came to the lunch table. Everybody was eating nice stuff. And that day she decided to cook the best things in the world. And I was stuck with the pancake. She reheated the pancake and I was stuck with it. Guess what? I did not
Mhm.
consume it again because I thought, well, maybe for dinner she's not going to do this because it's going to be disgusting at that point. Well, guess what? Everybody even had dessert for dinner, and I was stuck with the pancake.
Oh,
And I had to
Well,
eat it because imagine if I would have saved it for breakfast the next day.
oh my goodness.
uh,
Uh,
that was a
excuse me.
big robber. Uh-huh.
Excuse me. But I think part of the problem, and in a certain way, we as baby boomers, we have to take some responsibility because some of us did not do the best job raising our children, which kind of explains, in a way, what's happening today. And actually, I did discuss this when it comes to the mistakes that the baby boomers have made.
Yeah, I think it's like a snowball effect. You know, each one of us contributes a little bit to the decay of parenting. And I can guarantee you, millennials are going to raise even worse kids. You know, unless you're like, nah, this is nonsense, which is not the majority from what I've seen in the blogs and I've talked to other parents. It's not the majority. We're gonna see, you guys are gonna see it. It's
Okay.
going to be a very wonky society with highly intolerant and highly entitled adults, because that's what we're raising as well. We're making it even worse. Like another layer of bad parenting is being added on. We're not correcting anything.
Um, but it's and you know what's a funny thing is that now if you try to discipline your children, I mean, it's like you're certainly the bad guy because we're not allowing the children to do what they want. We're not allowing the children to express themselves. Okay, but the fact of the matter is, children need structure. Children need a positive male parental figure and a positive female parental figure. Unfortunately, for a lot of people, this is a foreign concept. And then you have to complete the kids' different concepts of families today. In fact, earlier tonight I was talking about Bill De Blasio and his estranged right are going to be separated, but yet they're going to live in the same house for now, and they're going to date other people.
Well, I guess they are agreeing. They're making an agreement there, so that's for them
I
to
don't see
know
a
what's that
problem
about.
with that. I think that, look, I'm the children of divorced parents. Yes, they divorced when I was like 16 years old.
Hmm.
But I would say that It's also a route that me and MK discussed even before having kids. If we ever, which I hope it's not that way, if we're ever at odds with each other and we are unable to find a solution and separation is the way. I don't think we should remove Grayson from his environment because that creates so much stress and emotional confusion to the kid.
Mhm.
You know, like the worst thing you can do, and it's often what we see in parents, the worst thing you can do when you divorce is thinking that you have it worse than your kids. It's never, you never have it worse than them. Kids have it worse than you because you're gonna go down a map that's like very unknown. It's, you start like as a kid you think that you had something to do with it. You don't know if your parents are going to love you the same, and it's very confusing for the kid. So it takes a few years for the kid to actually just understand and decompress. No, my parents still love me. They just stopped loving each other. But until we can comprehend all those things, I don't think you should add a layer of confusion by, oh, this weekend, pack up your stuff. You're going to go with your dad for the weekend. And then you're going to go with mom for the rest of the week. And then you're going to go this week with your dad. Like, I think parents, and it's something that me and MK discussed, we will stay in the same house. We will come and go. If we are not getting along, then we can have an apartment and we can come and go. Right? When it's your time, you'll stay in the house and you stay with Grayson. And if we have more kids, then with the extra kids. And then when it's my time, then I'll show up. That way, like they don't have to move. We do the moving. Does that make sense?
Yes, it
Well,
does.
it sounds very, it sounds very ideal, but you know that that could be difficult to implement. I mean, because hopefully, both of you come to that agreement, and both of you can keep your word about it. I mean, that neither one of you becomes mad or vindictive, and they don't honor the agreement, because it could be difficult to. I mean, ideally, I wouldn't have a problem with it if it was my situation, but it is more likely. Well, either one, but because the woman is more emotional, it could be more likely that the woman can get more vindictive and change her mind, and it can happen with the man too. But what you're saying, okay, I get the idea of it. I get the sense, kind of like the logic of it. I get it, but it could be difficult to implement. I mean, hopefully.
Be, but it's more. How can I explain it?
Hmm.
Almost better than the contrary, because if you see at the layers of divorce, like the dissolution of goods and the dissolution of the marriage itself, like
Mhm.
the family home doesn't have to get dissolved, right? It can be just put into the children, which is something that both parents, at least that's something that me and MK have in common. We care deeply for our son, and we want to put our son to go like longer and higher than we did. So of course, the property goes to the kid. We don't
Mhm.
have to dissolve none of that. You know, your stuff is your stuff, my stuff's my stuff. And it erases, I think, that part of divorce, which is something that, believe it or not, is the most difficult part of divorce. Because my parents started their divorce in 2004. They finalized their divorce in 2008. And I'm telling you, it was back and forth legal battle. And
Mhm.
then they have the layer of child support, and then you add the layer of whatever discontent they want or whatever. Oh, like you get another lawyer, then I'm gonna get another lawyer. Then you're gonna sue me for this, I'm gonna sue you for that. And till this day, they have not completely dissolved their properties because they're
Ah,
still
come on.
fighting over every little thing.
Yeah, somebody's being stubborn. I'm
They're
not trying.
both they're both look. I don't think they'll ever get over it because if you think about it, my parents live 2 houses away from each other. They still do things for each other.
Mhm.
They still talk
It's
to
never
each
gonna
other.
be this
They
completely
still
the same, man.
argue,
Oh
As
my
if they're
goodness.
still married, right?
basically. And my dad
Yeah.
remarried. His wife passed away, and they still arguing like they are married.
Okay. Yeah.
So they have seasons. They sometimes are very sweet to each other, and sometimes they're just arguing and stuff. So like I don't I think living through that, like I never saw the positives of it until like I'm older. And now I
Mhm.
can see, hey, no, this is if I think I'm more ready if that were to happen. I think I'll be more centered on my child because I don't want Grayson to experience how painful it was for me because I know how much it hurts.
But you know something, Denise. One thing that can be a problem is whenever couples separate for whatever reason, and then the custodial parent um, uses the children as a pawn or weapon to get back at the non-custodial problem. I mean, it's an unfortunate situation because basically, the child is already upset because both parents are not physically present, and now you're just going to use the child as a pawn to get back on the non-custodial parent.
That's usually the woman. I mean, from what I've seen, it's usually the woman that does that. I've never seen personally, right? I've never seen a man doing that.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's true.
men doing it is not it's not a common thing, but it's like the whole vindictiveness thing that I was referring to because it happens. it,
Yeah.
it happens, but it's not so much on men. I mean, I think that men can be a little bit more logical if they're actually if they're actually responsible enough to be in the kid's life. Of course, I'm not talking about the ones that have other priorities, which is what I had to go through. I mean, it's not that my dad was necessarily a bum because his whole life he was a very hardworking person, but he was a hardworking person for his things, not necessarily for
For you
us.
guys.
His priority was more him and his needs and him being able to to go out there and be a player.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, that's what I had to deal with. I mean, yeah, but
That's very.
he
I
Well,
think
also
that's
has
very
his
prevalent. I
issues.
think that's very
Mhm.
prevalent also. And if we're being honest, that's very prevalent on a lot of previous Puerto Rican generations because
Mhm.
my grandfather was the same way. He focused on himself until he was sick, and then his children, uh, you know, brought him back home and took care of him, which is my dad's father. And then my dad, even though he was an excellent provider, I don't think he was a bad person, but he also had that tendency of being a workaholic and focusing on, buying the latest this and the latest that. And I want my kids to go to private school. I want my kids to have things I didn't have. I want my wife to have the best car I can buy, and they continue to push the envelope, and I want to stay my kids on nice vacations all the time. And there was a summer my dad was like, we're gonna stay in every hotel and every parador in Puerto Rico, and that's all we did all summer.
Oh, nice.
So
Oh,
that was
yeah.
my dad, but that also cost a lot. There's a
Yes.
difference between cost and price, right? The cost of that to us was that dad was not present
Mhm.
because my dad never clocked in and clocked out. He was a business owner, and
Ah, yeah, yeah. So he was
he
working all the
never
time then.
all the time, and
well,
everything was a business deal. Everywhere we go, it was a business deal. It was a new thing that popped up. Sometimes during vacations, he'll be like, "Oh, like I'll be back if something came up," and then he will stay working for a very long time. So it was just my mom and us. So
um,
it's something that people need to evaluate. That sweet balance that also contributed to the erosion of the relationship that a lot of old school males do not want to admit. And I think it goes to what you were talking, Ramon, with your father.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of my father, um, would you believe I can only recall one time in my life that my father said that he loved me, and
Oh, wow.
that's when he was ill. I
Yeah,
mean,
in a vulnerable place. Maybe that might happen with me because I don't remember my dad saying that because he was for the most part not there. When I started
well, well,
remembering things, I was already like what 4 5 years old, and dad had already moved out. So I remember moving out from the house that we had next to grandma and moving across the highway, the 65 Infanteria, to stay uh, at the condominiums that were across the avenue, Santa Maria, the Santa Maria buildings.
mhm.
I think that's what it was called. And that's what I remember. I don't really remember much before that. I guess I was in bliss back then because that was his home and I wasn't appreciating it. I started remembering things when we moved out of there because she gave up the house. She put up the house for sale and moved to this apartment. And
Mhm.
it was for like a year or so, and then we moved to Levittown.
Oh,
Um,
Lord, live it down.
Like the, okay.
No, and
Well,
but it wasn't bad. It wasn't bad. I spent a couple of years in Levittown. The school that I went to for first and second grade, it was great. Great school. Loved it. I was an honor student there. But then we moved um, to Metro. To the Metro. I was living
Metropolitan area.
this neighborhood next to the medical center, the Centro Médico. And that was
Gamarra.
a very different thing because I was like going to school with kids from the caserío and shit, and
From Vista Hermosa.
yes, yes,
well,
from Vista Hermosa,
um,
Caparra.
Let me ask you something, Ramon. Did you ever went to the school Luis Muñiz from?
No, no. I went to as an elementary school that was República de Brasil, and
Okay. ¿Fuiste a la Gabriela Mistral?
no, I went to Trina
and,
Padilla.
Okay.
Trina
okay,
Padilla. That's the one that I went to. Mhm.
excuse me. Now one thing that made it kind of odd in our family is that unfortunately the men had reputation of being mujeres. Okay. In fact, I have at least one half brother that I'm aware of. Okay.
Oh, I
So
have a few. I have a few half brothers and sisters. I have met a couple of them, but I think I have a couple of half brothers. I have a half sister. I think I have another half sister that I don't know because last I heard of her, she was in New Jersey. I haven't met her, but I know two. I know two half brothers and one half sister.
Well,
But,
I don't know if I have because mine was rumored. So
Mhm.
I honestly cannot tell you for sure because my dad denies it till this day. But the word of the birds, the little birdies,
Uh-huh.
say that indeed he did father a son and he gave that lady our house in Orlando.
okay. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to play the audio because I cannot share it using my phone. Okay. Now, this is one of the things that that people have to deal with parents. So I'm just giving you a moment. Okay. Oops. Now, I was deeply disturbed by look, I have no problem if you are if you are an adult, and if that is your sexual orientation, that's fine. But when you force your doctrine on children, particularly children, say 5 years old, 6 years old, I have a problem. Maybe I'm too much a conservative, but that's my personal opinion. This was at a pride parade.
Okay, yeah, yeah, but because they're taking the kids to pride parades. I mean, kids shouldn't be there. Kids shouldn't be there because they're trying to confuse them into. They're trying to groom them. It's a grooming thing. I mean, the kids should be able to choose their lifestyles when they're old enough to do that. I mean, until then, they should be raised by what they are biologically. I know that this can be sound controversial and all, but that's really what gives them the better chance. Kind of like being well-rounded and growing up understanding themselves, even if they choose a different lifestyle later on. At least that's something that they chose because they were older and they learned things, they got the information, but if they felt like they wanted to do this, that, and the third, this other alternative lifestyle, then that's something that they could choose. But they need to stop grooming these kids that they don't know anything. I mean, they're trying to groom them when they are only like 3, 4, 5 years old, and they're confusing them. They're confusing them into getting them to join their thing, their lifestyle, and that's extremely detrimental because a kid is not trying to learn about anal sex because they're trying to force these things, these ideologies to these lifestyles to kids that are like in first grade, second grade, or something like that. And these are children. These are children that are not thinking anything sexual yet. They're not there yet, but they're trying to have them learn in school about gay sex or lesbian sex, and that's extremely inappropriate. Because the whole thing about the rainbow identities is all based on sex. It's all based on sex. It's very inappropriate trying to bring that to a kid.
Yeah.
I just think that they have not sat down. And like I said, I don't have anything against LGBT people. I mean, like I said, I don't have anything against them. My thing is, majority of what we're seeing today, all these people, the transgender community, the non-binary people, majority of them don't have children. And why is it troubling for me? Well, it's troubling because if you have your child, you want your child to be a reflection of who you are. And the reason why you want that is because even though they're going to be their own version of your reflection, but you somewhat want to share values and principles, it's because it preserves family harmony. So let's say, for example, and I've seen it even with myself, majority of my family is Seventh-day Adventist. I am not Seventh-day Adventist because at 22 years old, I realized that I was not going to abide by that. It was a cult and I needed to step out of it. And I know for a fact that I lost a chunk of my family when I walked away from the religion. And at first, I was still believing in the concept of God. I still believe in a supreme being at the time. But it was not the way they wanted me to believe in that. And there's a lot of things that I did not get to share with them for many years because my constant questioning of their doctrine was conflicted. So when we bring that with the ideology that the alternative lifestyle community wants to bring up, they're not factoring in many things. The first one is you don't have children. You should just apply that to your children so that you preserve your family harmony. When you have kids, by all means, go ahead and explain to them everything on the rainbow so that you have your kids as a somewhat version of yourself.
Mhm.
I will meddle and I will not judge.
Mhm.
However, the same thing has to be tolerated on our side. We do not abide by that lifestyle. That doesn't, I don't share those same views on gender, on sex, and on sexual orientation. So I don't see the value in teaching my child that, because it will
Mhm.
bring a lot of conflict when my child believes in certain things that I don't believe in. And
Mhm.
then there's the concept that all of this is experimental. The reason behind it that they're trying to justify why this needs to be taught to children is because they claim that this will make adults that are more tolerant and accepting of alternative lifestyles. But let's take Black people, for example. Black folks have been, the civil rights movement has been taught in schools for a while now. Do you see society being more accepting, tolerant, and loving of Black people, or you think it has been the same? We see racism today.
Mhm.
So we can conclude that forced integration or forced, the thought or the teaching of forced tolerance doesn't work.
Mhm.
It didn't work for Black people, and that made way more sense than transgender ideology. That was just merely decency that we were teaching to people. So if it did not work for Black people, why we want to experiment with our kids and teach them all the stuff?
Yeah. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to play another audio. Now, basically, what this female pastor did, she took what's either the Nicene Creed or the Apostles' Creed, and this is how they interpret it.
They seem to have forgotten that pride is a sin.
And let us confess our faith today in the words of the Sparkle Creed. I believe in the non-binary God, whose pronouns are plural. I believe in Jesus Christ, their child, who wore a fabulous tunic and had 2 dads, and sought everyone as a sibling child of God. I believe in the rainbow spirit, who shatters our image of one white light and refracts it into a rainbow of gorgeous diversity. I believe in the church of everyday saints, as numerous, creative, and resilient as patches on the eighth quilt.
Now, first of all, good evening, AMR. First of all, as a Christian, I'm not gonna lie, I was deeply offended. First of all, the concept that Jesus had two dads, okay, and then taking something which is either the Apostles' Creed or the Nicene Creed to make it and to twist it completely out of the culture. Okay, now I understand as the only Christian on the panel, I'm gonna have a strong reaction. But it's just the whole idea. Basically, what she's basically saying is that Jesus had 2 dads, when basically Jesus had uh, a biological mother and basically a male parental figure in Joseph. Your reaction, your thoughts.
Well, I mean, it's quite a reach because basically it seems like the whole thing with the 2 dads is God and Joseph. So he had 2 dads, so it's okay to only have parents of one gender. But it's a reach. It's a reach because they're trying to conveniently, on for the sake of this argument, make God as if he was a human being, when this will be the same group that will have a problem with saying that God is a he and that the God is supposed to be genderless. But this was a reach. That's all I can say. It's a reach trying to justify their argument. I mean, people do that all the time, and people take things from the Bible and they interpret it as they see fit, as they find it convenient. And this is a case of interpreting something from the Bible in a convenient way, trying to make it seem that there were the Jesus had two dads, God and Joseph. So very convenient, and leaving the mother out, leaving Mary out.
Okay. Denise, your reaction.
Same. This is, is this same thing that Ramon said. It's retarded because, I mean, if you look at Christian ideology, God doesn't have a gender. Okay. Let's just start from that, right? I don't know. People are just so weird. We're talking about terrestrial Jesus versus a celestial God, which it doesn't correlate, because if that's the case, then we all have two fathers, because we all have our terrestrial father and God. This person makes a very poor interpretation of the Bible, because the whole concept of Jesus is to show humankind that Jesus came to the world in human form and set an example for everyone to follow. And he faced all the adversities that you're going to face throughout your life. That was the whole concept of that.
Yeah.
So he had two fathers, just like everybody else does, but one is celestial, one is terrestrial, and we're talking about terrestrial people. And on earth, he had one father and one mother. Why we want to erase Mary?
You know what? I don't know. This person's not here to give a rebuttal.
No,
So
it's
I
so
don't want
weird.
to. I don't want to give more than what it is. But
Didn't Mary was pregnant by the Immaculate Conception,
okay, see, okay,
and she gave birth to Jesus? Like, why are we trying to like erase that part? Where was a man squatting and giving birth to Jesus while Joseph held his hand? That's so weird.
well, look, look, and again, I understand there's diversity. Everyone, should have their own point of view. And what I find it very offensive, that basically, in essence, this pastor is basically saying that Jesus was gay,
Or
which
the
is
product of a gay marriage. It's like they're
okay.
trying to justify a lot of things, and when they don't use the animals, it's I see it this way: they're trying to infiltrate Christianity, okay, and the only way to do that is by normalizing it, by doing mental gymnastics around the Bible, because the only place that they have not been able to infiltrate fully is in Christian circles. And right now they just took an L, because didn't the Supreme Court ruled in favor of conservative Christians like last week?
Yes. In fact, I'm going to be having a stream regarding some of the decisions the Supreme Court made next week. But this is what I find troubling. And I'm just going to speak for myself. I'm not going to speak for anybody else. I'm going to speak for myself, because I want to make it clear, I'm not attacking anyone of the alphabet community. but I am speaking for myself. Okay, which is which is the following. I believe that there are verses in Scripture. I said believe that actually does not sanction this type of activity. Again, this is my interpretation. Okay, that's just my belief. Okay, I'm not saying anything else. And the fact that they took a figure that changed so many people's lives to try to somehow fit into their agenda, I have a huge problem with that.
Well, I mean, as we know, and this is something that you, Dennis, you have talked about it, that feminism had already infiltrated Christianity. So now it's rainbow lifestyles infiltrating Christianity. So I don't know. The only way that this could actually happen all the way will be if Christianity becomes fully matriarchal, and they accept it, because they usually is certain women that are very accepting of these alternate lifestyles, very accepting of the whole argument against gender, trying to make it seem like gender is a social construct, which we know it's not. But
Yeah, it's not. It's a scientific fact.
and from what I'm seeing, I mean, the feminism has already gotten in Christianity, and they are apparently, it seems to me like they are counting on feminism to open the door for the Rainbow Coalition to get into Christianity too and appropriate it so they can use it to push an agenda. I mean, that's what it seems, as it seems to me like that's what's happening here.
I
mean,
think they're using several avenues. Like that's why they're being called woke. They're using feminism. They're using black people. They're using fat people, because what they're trying to preach is quote unquote tolerance. That is the Trojan horse. Is the whole concept of tolerance.
yeah, the whole body positivity, the whole
the
body
tolerance
positivity thing.
tolerance and equality is a Trojan horse for them to insert themselves in circles where they don't belong. It's kind of like what I had a discussion with one of them last week when they were bitching and moaning about not being able to being discriminated against by conservative Christian people. And I was like, okay, let's take your point of view, right? With Christian people. Let's say that instead of the music of Christina Aguilera for Los Angeles Pride Parade, we want to bring gospel singers and they're going to sing the gospel. And that's the only music that's going to be at Pride Parade. Can they do that? And they were like, no, because that's not what Pride is about. Okay, then the Christian ideology is not about your sexual orientation, and they condemn homosexuality. They condemn the transformation, the manly transformation or humane transformation of God's creation. That goes against Christian values and the Christian ideology. So why you want to push that upon people forcefully because you want to, but then when it comes to you, you don't want to do the same thing because certain things just don't go together. Blood and chocolate don't go together.
Yeah.
You know, same with Christianity and the rainbow agenda. It doesn't go together.
Yeah. Well, actually, in some of the more liberal denominations, you have gay and lesbian pastors. In fact, in the Episcopal Church, you even have lesbian bishops, and what has happened that led to the more conservative Episcopalians to leave the Episcopalian Church because they cannot think and sanction the concept that a bishop, which is the head of a local group of churches, is a lesbian. There's been, in fact, there's been separation not just in the Episcopalian Church, but some of the other mainline Protestant churches, because the more conservative members cannot sanction that in their own point of view.
Well, I mean, but those are like non-denominational. I think that that's another problem I have with these people is that why not stick to the religions that accept you? Why not stick to those? Why you want to go to a more structured religion like, Baptist, again, Seventh-day Adventists, Jehovah's Witnesses, Catholics? Like, why you want to go there when you know that that's a very structured type of religion? They're not going to accept you. Later day saints are not going to accept you. Like, all these people are not going to accept you. So why keep doing this? Why not going where you're able to just be welcome, and why you want to force people to just like keep accepting or having to tolerate your lifestyle when that goes against what they believe in? Like, why only your feelings are validated?
You know what? I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I find it to be tied a lot with this need for attention and validation, because that need can be very strong. And if that requires forcing other people to kind of like get their attention, it's what it seems like they justify it with the belief that they have been oppressed for so long, that they are having the mentality that people should accommodate to them, even though the people that identify as some kind of rainbow denomination, that's only a little over 5% of the total population, but they're expecting that 5% are expecting the other 95% to conform to them. And I hate it when they talk about the whole non-conforming or non-binary. They can't really explain that themselves, what the hell that is. But when they use words like non-conforming and non-binary, that already tells me what they are about, and I kind of like step away, and I don't want to deal with them, because there is no, you can't speak with them in a rational manner, because it's all gonna be like either you conform or you are homophobic or some kind of phobic.
No.
And there is no winning with them.
It's like they want you to be tolerant of their views. However, they cannot accept the views of others. Like, they cannot accept the views of Christians who has a more conservative lean.
Yeah.
Like for example, like I said, I never have kids. I don't think I'm going to have kids. But if I was to have children, I was like teaching to be tolerant, which includes the fact that you have people who lead different lifestyles. Not to say that they're evil. It's just that they have a different lifestyle, and we're living in a society where you have different beliefs, you have different concepts, and you have different lifestyles. It just happens that we are in a multi-cultural, I'm just trying to think of the word, in a society where there are many different beliefs and structures.
They're demanding tolerance while being intolerant. the demand tolerance where they themselves are being intolerant and hateful and trying to force something on others,
Yeah.
which I'm not following with that, and I find that it shouldn't be like that. Of course, I would want them to have rights. They have rights as citizens, just like everyone else, and they have a right to practice their personal lifestyles, because that's what it is. It's about their personal lifestyles in a way that it doesn't hurt others or impose on others, and definitely it doesn't hurt kids, because a lot of um, what they're proposing, what they're trying to do, trying to catch the kids early, so to speak, and that should be off limits.
Denise, as the only one that actually raised children, what would you say is some of the things that people who need to do to, in raising children? What are some of the basic things?
In order to successfully do well,
Yes.
well, I can only speak for like my short experience.
I know, but you're the only parent on the panel, so.
I wish Kishelle was here so she could give also her perspective. But I would say
Yeah.
like in my short experience, I would say in the type of society that we live in, I know a lot of people are pressuring people to have kids very young. I advise against it.
Okay.
There's so many reasons why. I mean, I can see it. I can see if have kids at 28, please. Have kids at 28, 29 years old.
So you will recommend a man fathering a child when he's in his 80s?
No. Hell no. I think no. Why you want to father a kid in your casket years? No. But even as a woman and men, just I think the sweet spot is 28 to 30, 28 to 35, 28 to probably 40.
Okay.
Why? I'll explain why. Ideally, in like, in like a ideal world, like it was in the past, yeah, like at 19, it would be the ideal time for a woman to have kids, and a man that's 22, that would be ideal for him to be a father. Unfortunately, the world we live in today, when you look at a 22-year-old woman today or a 25-year-old guy today, they're not at the same maturity level. They don't have the patience. They're still forming themselves. The economy itself is not built for people to be. If you hear my son, I mean, he's in his witching hour, so. But
Yeah, we heard it.
No, he wants to participate in the discussion.
Yeah, he's contributing too. So we're not even. You don't reach your financial stability until you're in your 30s. That is a known fact. So you're going to struggle a lot as a couple raising your kid. And I'm not talking about the struggle that baby boomers had or the greatest generation or the silent generation had, which was a struggle of like just making basic ends meet and whatever. No, like because they still have like a roof over their heads and they still have access to things. We're talking about there's a lot of things that are going to be lacking if both parents have a kid that young. And then you add the layer of you have the immaturity, you have the mental lack of stability, and then you add the fact of social media. And social media tells you so many things that you're doing wrong because the access to information is huge. Okay, you have so much access to information. So what's gonna happen is that give me 1 second, guys.
Okay.
What's gonna happen is that you're going to have a lot of information on immature parents that are not financially stable and are raising an adult. So that's very dangerous. If you look at it, if you ask me, that's very dangerous. So one of the things that I would say that has helped me and MK raise our son with more patience and a little bit more of understanding of what will be beneficial for him is that we're older.
Mhm.
So we're able to have better discernment of like decisions that we make, also on things that we don't approve, things that are kind of bullshit, that are out there. And also, we are more financially stable than other people in our vicinity that has had kids in their early 20s, and so on and so on. So we're able to give Grayson more stability. Like I was able to stay at home like right after I hit a certain amount of weeks pregnant. Does that make sense?
Yes. And one thing I can say, and I can say it without hesitation, that both you and MK has done an excellent job in raising Grayson. I can say that without any hesitation whatsoever.
Thank you very much, Jose.
Okay.
No, I
So
mean, there's still a long way to go, but
Oh yeah.
I'm sure that he's doing just fine.
Yeah,
yes.
there's a lot that's ahead of us, like a lot. And I can see already, like when I talk to some of my friends that are also parents, and they some of them had kids like around our age, and some had kids when they were younger. Like one of my friends had her kids at 19, and she tells me, just like, oh, like you guys have so much patience. Like I don't.
Well, I think, actually I did send the link to Kesha. It's unfortunate that she was not able to join us because, she would have given, a unique perspective,
Yeah, a better
raising two,
perspective.
two daughters. So, what I'll do is I'll just send, I'll just send the link to the stream to her on Instagram. Um, and the fact of the matter is, I'm glad that we having this discussion because when I talk to some of that people about this topic, it's like, why are you talking about it? You don't have any kids. Okay, I don't have kids, but in some ways, I'm like a parental figure, and the fact is, we do have at least one parent in the panel who can give a unique perspective um, regarding what it is to raise children. And yes, I see AMR 35 years old, so I guess he's at that age that,
Yeah, baby making should be delayed. I disagree with the manosphere. I disagree with the red pillars on that. I mean, say whatever you want to say. We might be geriatric, but I mean, if you're not eating fast food and ding dongs for breakfast, it's still doable. Like it's still doable at 28 till 40. Okay, I'm the living example.
yes,
Uh,
that's true.
so and you guys know I love chocolate. I am not skinny by any means. I'm fat.
Yeah.
So so come
You're
on.
telling me.
Let's just, let's
You're
just,
telling
let's
me.
just, let's just say that you
I
have
got
a
a
little
pot of
extra space in
Nutella.
the mezzanine.
Yeah, I'm like, come on. Like you guys know I'm Puerto Rican. Like I love my sugar. I love my flan. Come on.
Yeah,
But
I got the little thing with the Nutella in it that I'm gonna be eating
Nutella
with
is
some bread.
addictive. Nutella
Yeah,
is,
yeah,
oh my
it
God,
has
Well,
it's
crack
addictive.
in it.
It's just so
well,
good. But I
yeah,
would
It is.
say that it has to be. I mean, we have to. I think we have to let go of like old school mindset of parenting and breeding and try to have a more modern approach. And it's very important that we have that approach because society is 1000% different than that of our grandparents or than that of our even our parents. Like in my case, my parents were boomers. So It's very different than from like their lifestyle than our lifestyle today.
Mhm.
And if you think about it, even our lifespan, like if I look at my grandma had her first kid at 13 years old.
Right.
On my mom's side. And then on my dad's side, my grandma had her first baby at 17 years old. But the reason for that is that in the past, Western medicine was not as effective. So people did not tend to live as long. If you even look at previous civilizations, like our indigenous civilization with the Tainos, the Mayans, the Aztecas, the Incas, their lifespan was relatively short. So they obviously had to start procreating the minute the girl had their first, period. She was already ready to procreate. Now, why we want to still put those type of rules in modern society, I do not understand that from the manosphere perspective, because like I said, there's many things to take into consideration. First is, like I said, financial stability. Second is brain development. We know more about the brain today than we did in the past, and we know that your brain is not fully developed until age 25. And even when it's completely developed, then you need a little bit of test in the waters. Now, I'm not saying you have to get married later. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is like delayed having children, build up together, marry young. I would say if you have to marry at 19, marry at 19. I don't care. Use whatever you want to use to avoid having children, delay having children. As much as you can, and build up as a couple and set yourselves like together some goals so that come age 28, 29, then you already have your kid and you can continue. If you're going to have more children, then you still have time within that time frame to do so. But I think that's the sweet spot for kids. I've seen how it works because I have cousins that delay parenting as well as me, and I have sisters and cousins that had them very, very young, and I see them struggling financially. They struggle with stress. They struggle with patience. Their kids are like very like, I don't want to say poor quality kids because that's a little bit harsh, but
they're
I
brats.
think
They're brats.
yeah, because of course they didn't have the patience and the wisdom that comes with being a little bit seasoned in your 20s. So I would say that I mean that's a sweet spot. I think 28 to 40 is you're still in that frame, I would say.
Excuse me. I just want to welcome King Macho to the chat.
Oh, you, Armando? He's always
It might
using
be,
different
it might
names.
be, it might be.
Yeah.
But in any case, what we're gonna do is we're gonna stop to wrap this up. Would you guys be able to stay after to talk a little bit in the backstage, or you're pressed for time?
Well,
I
do
have to go.
me
Um,
too. Me too. So
Okay.
I guess we
I'm
will.
in my
Next.
workout snapback regimen.
Ah, you're trying to get
So
snacks.
yeah, I have to snap back. Like, come on.
Okay. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna start to take closing statements. So now we're gonna begin with the lover of cold, who thinks that Orchard Beach is more beautiful than the beaches of Puerto Rico.
Okay,
Don't
blasphemy.
Wow.
That's a blasphemy. That is what you
It
just
doesn't
said.
matter who
there.
you're about to introduce. Both of us think the same. That's an insult.
Yeah. You just you just stole a bald-faced lie, but I'll be quiet now.
who don't think that we have a rat problem in New York, who wants to go to Times Square in chancletas and shorts to watch the ball drop, who wants to go to Coney Island on New Year's Day and join the Polar Bear Club to swim in the ocean, who loves cold and dreams that Puerto Rico can become a winter wonderland, and
Oh,
also
no.
that Texas be a winter wonderland. The introvert Boricua!
Hey, Don Jose, come on. What are you saying all of that? I mean, that part about Chocha Beach being better than the island. Come on.
Esa
say
playa es un bidet.
Mira. Eso for a lot of people, that's basically going to the restroom or something because it's ugh, I'm never. I'll look at it from a distance, but I'm not getting in that
Esa
water.
playa, mira, las aguas termales de los baños de Coam, que son una
Oh,
porquería, son mejores que esa playa. Okay?
yeah, well, because of temperature, the Coamo baths they stay fairly clean naturally.
I fall. I
But
like soaking in the ass puddle. It's like an ass soup.
Oh, come on now. It isn't that bad.
It's synthetic.
I can only
It's synthetic
imagine.
hot springs.
I can only imagine you trying to get close to the beach and it already stinks of
Yeah.
ass.
It's
I
like
mean,
ass soup. Yeah, that's how it is.
no, I don't think I could do it. I mean, give me Crash Boat, give me Luquillo, give me Salinas.
Costa Azul, Seven Seas,
Yeah,
Mar
right.
Chiquita.
Yeah, but
Yes.
here in New York we have Brighton Beach. We have Orchard Beach.
No.
We have
Yeah, you got Chocha y Culo Beach.
Yeah,
Sure.
this is that. No, have you seen their sand, Ramon? Like it's not white like sand is supposed to be, like beige,
It's like gray.
gray,
It
and
looks like
and
ash.
greenish. Yeah,
It's gonna look like ash. Not interested.
yeah.
Sorry, sorry, Jose.
Yes.
But but with that said, Don Jose, I appreciate you letting me be on your panel. This is a good combo, good discussion, and I mean, really quick. I know that I'm kind of plugging something. Let me see if I can do a live stream tomorrow. I want to have a chance to talk about the whole thing about the affirmative action because I'm observing about the ruling because there seems to be opposing opinions about it actually from Asian Americans, which is surprising to me because you will think that they will be united on that. But I want to talk about it. Let me see if I can do something tomorrow afternoon, and I can talk about it because it seems that they are being divided about the ruling. But aside from that,
To be able to scapegoat affirmative action as to why they're not.
that's part of it. That's part of it. But please, pretty please, let's not get into that. Let's talk about that tomorrow. No, because I want to be. Yeah. Because I know that you have a lot
Bring
to say
your
about
argument
it.
tomorrow.
Yeah. No, but there seems to be kind of like opposing opinions about it. But that what you just said, that's part of it. That's part that it goes into the argument. But Jose, I appreciate you letting me be on your panel. Shout out to you. Shout out to Denise and to the chat. And until next time, have a good one, you guys. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Speaking about, you're not gonna believe who was on my panel last week.
Well, I was kind of thinking about the little fiasco that we had the week before. Last week, who did you have?
Actually,
You have a lot of people.
Zacharias was on the platform.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, I don't feel one way or the other about him. He's somebody who is very opinionated and has a lot to say. But it's nice that you guys are talking. I guess you're not having any beef. So
Get off the fluffy platform. Do you remember?
yeah, I remember that one. But
Oh my
that's good. That's good that you guys are talking and you're being adults. We're being adults about it. He's being adult. You're being adult about it. So no, they're not bickering because it can descend into bickering and having an argument and and having beef. I mean, it's pointless. It doesn't go anywhere. It might be entertaining for an spectator on it, but it doesn't. It doesn't go anywhere. Nothing good can come out of it. But yeah. So something about that, and it tells Zacharias to get my name out of his mouth. But okay, but isn't
Well,
he your dude? Isn't he your friend, King Macho, quote unquote?
you know what? Let's not go there because I don't want to turn into another, But you know what? If Nixon can go to China, then I can have sacrifice and we can have a responsible, mature conversation.
Oh yeah. Nixon went to his grave bragging about it that he opened up China. We're supposed to be so anti-communist, but Nixon was bragging about his success with opening up China to the world. But I'll take my lead now. You guys take care.
All right, take care. Thank you.
Yeah.
So now we got to go to the Queen of Rochester, who loves New York with a passion, who also loves the cold with a passion. Denise Gonzalez.
Stop. Look, first of all, thank you for having me on, Jose. I would say that this is a topic that, like I said, I wish we would have had Kisha on as well so that she can give her perspective on long-term parenting. In my case, I think there's a lot of things that we can discuss on early parenting, especially modern times, and the road ahead and the stuff that, you know, the stuff that we're seeing as new parents from, pregnancy surveillance and the whack recommendations that were being given for our children and the over medication and many other things, right? So, but I'm glad we had the conversation. And like I said, it's all going to come down to modern parenting being adjusted to modern times. So, people can actually have better decision making when it comes to like raising the next generation of adults. Until that it's being taught or preached in large numbers, we're going to continue to see how gentle parenting is going to continue to wreck society more and more and more, because we're going to become softer and softer and softer on our kids, to the point where toddlers are going to be bossing their parents around, like we're seeing today. But it's going to be worse, I can guarantee you that. With that being said, thank you for having me on. I'll try to catch on the next one. If not, I'll watch on the replay. I'll try to have a show this weekend. I'm trying to put something together regarding religion. I would love to have you on, which relates to the manosphere.
I'll be honored. Now I would consider it a big favor, Denise, if you were to share this stream on your platform.
Absolutely.
And do I have your permission to share your stream on my platform?
Absolutely.
Okay, because you know what? I believe in asking. I don't want to get hit by a copyright strike by my own cyber daughter.
No, never. I asked to. So, but yeah, I think that it's something that needs to be addressed. I think I'm gonna divide it in two parts, and I'll try my best to have people, come in and express their opinions. But it's a topic that I really want to touch on it, and it's something that I don't know if you picked up. Well, you picked up on it, Jose. I've been talking about it for quite some time, regarding like the views on how religion is used to like punish modern women. We'll talk about it. We'll talk about it Saturday.
Yeah. You know what, and I'm gonna address this to my Christian brethren, because I can get away in saying this. Instead of being so overly judgmental, just basically see everything in the whole picture. Because unfortunately, one of the biggest problems that we as Christians have is we come across as being very judgmental. And I know that I've been guilty at times, okay? But at least I recognize that. But
Yeah, no, and to be honest, majority of the problems that we're having is not with actual Christians. It's mostly with non-Christian people. Like the most immoral folks are out here preaching morality. But it's like morality for thee, not for me.
I understand that. Well, thank you very much for stopping by. Maybe the next time we get together, we can have a backstage because there's a couple of things to discuss. But you know what? There'll be a time in the season for everything.
Absolutely. Just reach out to me on our private chat with the boys and you.
Yeah,
Okay.
because believe me, I have some tea to share.
Ooh, I want to know. Let me know.
I will do so. I
Oh,
was
my-
hesitant. I was hesitant to share with the group, but you know, it is what it is.
No problem. We'll talk some more over there. Take care and thank you for having me, Jose.
Take
Have a
care. I
nice
love
time.
you. You too, and I love you very much.
Bendición. Bye bye.
Que Dios te bendiga. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you my final thoughts. I'm glad that Denise was here, so we can have this discussion. Now, in all fairness, I did send an invitation to Kesha. I also sent an invitation to Christina, meaning that she's a parent, to express her viewpoint. It would have been great if we had their viewpoints, but the reality is this: you know, not everyone is always available. So thank you, Emma. Not everyone's available, and it's something that needs to be discussed. And I'm glad that Denise was here to share her take on it. So what I will say is the following. People raising children, they have a lot of challenges. However, when everything is said and done, just remain true to your principles and just make sure that you do the best you can raising your children. Be mindful that you're going to make mistakes along the way, but that's not a problem as long as you can acknowledge that you make mistakes and just do better. That's the main thing. So, and of course, a huge shout out to everyone that's on the chat who expressed their point of view. A huge shout out to Ramon and Denise for blessing my cyber home. Now, my next stream is going to be on Friday. I think it's going to be 9 or 10 o'clock. I'm not sure. Basically, I'm going to be speaking on the 4th of July itself. Now, the reason why we're having this discussion is because many people observe this day in many different ways. And some people look at it as a patriotic day. Some people look at it as a day where of oppression. In my case, I look at it, I just chose to honor the memory of my dearly beloved departed brother. So we're going to have a discussion regarding that. And of course, everyone's views are welcome. So that being said, I'm just going to close the same way that I always close. Let's be good to each other. Okay? So, oops, I just want to make sure. Okay. So with that being said, this has been, okay, thank you. Okay. So that being said, this has been another episode of Uncommon Sense with Jose Negron. And it just shows you that, you know, anyone is welcome as long as they are respectable. Thank you, Emma. And I mean, as long as everyone is respectable and we can have mature conversation, that is the main thing. Okay, so with that being said, this has been another episode of Uncommon Sense with Jose Negron. Wishing all of you a pleasant night. Take care and peace.
Be strong.